Checks and Balances, created by Erica and Nick Austin. Why was the checks and balance system created? It was created to prevent one of the branches of government from becoming too powerful. The first 3 articles of the U.S. Constitution explain the system in detail. Even in the Federalist Paper number 51, written by James Madison, talks about how the checks and balance system will help the government to not become the monarchy that the Anti-Federalists feared. There are 3 main branches of the government: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. Under the executive branch, you would find the president, the vice president, and the bureaucracy. However, most people associate this branch with the president. Under the legislative branch, you would find Congress. Congress is a bicameral legislature, which means it is comprised of 2 houses. There is the House of Representatives and the Senate. Then lastly, under the judicial branch, you have the federal court system, which includes the Supreme Court. The executive powers are executive order, which means the ruling or regulation issued by the president that has the effect of a law. Executive agreement, which means the president can make foreign treaties without the Senate's approval. As Commander-in-Chief, the president can deploy troops if necessary. The president also has pardoning powers, which is an executive grant providing restoration of all rights and privileges of citizenship to specific individuals charged or convicted of a crime. Can enforce federal laws and court orders, propose legislation or bills to Congress, and can nominate or select officers of the U.S. government and federal judges. The legislative powers are the ability to pass all the federal laws, the ability to pass the federal budget, to be able to declare war, and establish the federal courts, as well as the number of judges. The judicial powers are to interpret both federal laws and the U.S. Constitution, and to review the decision of lower state and federal courts. The executive checks over legislature or Congress are: the president can veto legislation, can call Congress into special session, and implement or fail to implement laws passed by Congress. The executive checks over the judicial or the Supreme Court are that they appoint the federal judges and refuse to implement decisions. The legislative checks over the executive branch or the president are impeachment, which is when the House of Representatives charges the president, vice president, or other civil officers with treason or high crimes and misdemeanors. They can reject legislation or funding the president wants, refuse to confirm nominees or approve treaties, and return troops as stated in the War Powers Act. And the legislative checks over the judicial branch or the Supreme Court are that they can change the number of jurisdictions of the federal courts. They can also impeach judges and propose constitutional amendments to override judicial decisions. Judicial checks over the executive branch or the president are that they can declare any executive branch actions unconstitutional, as well as that the Chief Justice presides over any impeachment trials. And the judicial checks over the legislative branch or Congress, are that they can rule federal and state laws unconstitutional. Works cited. We received our information from the 2012 election edition of American Government Roots and Reform.